Welcome to this video lecture. Myself Atul Kumar, working as Assistant Professor in Department of Computer Science, Rajiv Gandhi Memorial, Government College, Jogindarnagar. In this video lecture, I will discuss about different types of memories, their characteristics and their uses in the computer system. So, computer memory store data, instructions required for the processing of data and output results. Different types of memories having are used in the computer system depending upon their unique features and unique characteristics. So we mainly have two type of memories. One is primary memory and second one is secondary memory. The examples of primary memory are registers, cache memory and RAM. And the examples of secondary memories are hard disk, optical disk, floppy disk and magnetic tapes. So before going into details of primary memory and secondary memory, firstly we should know how the memory is represented in the computer system. So the basic unit of the memory in computer system is bit. So bit is the basic unit of memory in a computer system, and a bit is a single binary digit. So it is either 0 or either 1. So combination of 8 bits is equal to 1 byte. So we talk about MBs, we talk about GBs. So the smallest unit is a bit, and the combination or group of 8 bits is called as byte. So after going further, so 1 kilobyte is 1024 bytes. So kilo means 1000, but in case of computer memory it is exactly equal to 1024 bytes, and 1 byte is equal to 8 bit. So if we want to convert this 1 kilobyte into 102 into how many bits, so how we will do this? So 1024 1024 and 1 byte is equal to 8 bits. So into multiply by 8 bits. So these are the total number of bits that are available with 1 kilobyte. Similarly, we have 1 megabyte, that is 1 MB, and it is equivalent to 1024 kilobyte. If we want to convert this into number of bits, then it is also simple. 1024, firstly we have 1024, and 1 kilobyte is how many bits? Multiply by 1024 multiply by 8 bits. So 1 megabyte is equal to this number. If you multiply this number, and the total is equal to the 1 megabyte. Similarly, we have 1 gigabyte, and giga means 10 raised to power 9, and it is hardly equal to 1024 MB, and when we expand this, then it is equal to 1024 into 1024 kV, and when we further expand this, then it is equivalent to 1024 into 1024 into 1024 into 8 bits. Similarly, we have 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte is equal to 1024 GB, and it is equivalent to 1024 multiplied by 1024 multiplied by 1024 KB. So next, what is memory hierarchy in computer system? It is actually the organization of memory, how the memory is, different types of memories are organized in computer system based on their cost, based on their access speed, and based on their storage capacity. So what is access speed? Access speed is the time interval between the read and write request and availability of the data. The lesser the time, lesser the access time, the faster is the speed of the memory, and better is that kind of memory. Similarly, we have a storage capacity. So if a memory which have a higher storage capacity is better as compared to the memory which have a lower storage capacity. So we need such kind of memories that are higher access speed and higher storage capacity and having low cost. So when we go from bottom to top, when we go in this hierarchy from bottom to top, in the bottom we have a magnetic tape, then we have a magnetic disk and optical disk, then we have primary memory and it is also called as main memory or internal memory, then we have cache memory or register. Last we at the top we have register. So when we go from bottom to top, the cost of the memories increases. So one of the cheapest memory available in the market, we have magnetic tape, then we have magnetic disk, and registers are having very higher in cost as compared to other memories. And when we go from bottom to top, then their access speed or the time taken to write or read operation also decreases. So this means that it is very faster, registers are very fast than as compared to cache memory, and cache memory is faster as compared to primary memory, and primary memory is faster as compared to magnetic disk, which is again faster as compared to magnetic tape. So magnetic tapes are however very cheaper in cost, but they have very slower access time as compared to other memories, and the faster access time in this hierarchy we have registers. And in case of storage capacity, registers, when we go from bottom to top, then the storage capacity decreases. So magnetic tapes have very higher larger storage capacity, and when we go in up in this hierarchy, then the storage capacity decreases. So again we have two types of memories, that is semiconductor memory and secondary memory. The magnetic disk and magnetic tapes are grouped together into a secondary memory, and others are grouped together as a semiconductor memories, and this includes primary memory, cache memory, and registers. This is all about memory hierarchy. So when we divide this memory hierarchy into broad categories, then we have two broad categories. One is internal memory and other is secondary memory. So the main features of internal memory they have very limited storage capacity. They have temporary storage, means they are volatile in nature, means when we store something and when power goes off, then all the data removed from this kind of memory, and they have very faster access, so the access time is very small as compared to secondary memory. They have very higher cost, and the examples of internal memory, we have registers, we have cache memory, and we have primary memory. I will discuss one by one later on in this video lecture what are these memories. So next we have external memory. The main features of external memory, they have very higher storage capacity, and they are permanent storage, means they are non-volatile in nature, means when power goes off, then the data that is stored in this kind of memory is not deleted. That is, it is a kind of permanent storage and have a slower access, means to access any kind of data or to read or write any kind of data from this kind of memory, the access time is slower as compared to primary memory. And this kind of memory store data and instruction that are not used by CPU at a time. So CPU, when we run some process or some program in our computer system, so CPU fetches the data mainly from the main memory, and if we want some data that is not available within the main memory, then firstly the data is transferred from secondary memory, that is the external memory, to the main memory, and that data is then used by CPU. and it is one of the cheapest or lesser cost as compared to internal memories. The main examples of external memories are magnetic tapes, magnetic disk, and optical disk. So first kind of memory I will discuss is CPU registers. So registers are very high speed storage areas located inside the CPU. So after CPU gets the data and instructions from the cache and RAM, the data and instructions are moved to the register for processing. So mainly it register stores data, instructions, and addresses and intermediate results that are used by the CPU. So they are directly manipulated by control unit of CPU during the instruction execution, and they are often called as CPU working memory. So CPU registers are also called as CPU working memory. Why they are called as CPU working memory? As CPU uses register for the processing of data, so they are called as CPU working memory. Next we have a cache memory. So cache memory is placed in between CPU and RAM. So cache memory is very faster memory, and it is faster than RAM, but smaller than not faster as compared to registers. So cache memory is a storage buffer that stores the data that is used more often temporarily and makes them available to the CPU at a faster rate. So during the processing, CPU first checks cache for the required data. If that data is found in the cache, then it is called as cache hit, and if it is not found in the cache, then it is called as cache miss, and then CPU looks in the RAM for the data. If the data is found in the RAM, then it processes that data, and the data is then transferred to the cache for again if required by the CPU for future use to the cache memory. So cache memory is always built into the processor and is faster than the separate cache memory. So built-in memories have two levels. One is level 1 cache memory and one is level 2 cache memory. In these days we have a high-end processors like i7. They comes with L3 cache, like L3 cache we have, but they are very this kind of cache comes in very high-end processors, as they are very expensive. Cache memories are very expensive, and they have very smaller size. The size of cache memory varies from around 2 MB to 16 MB in latest modern computers. So this one is the block diagram how the cache memory is in the computer system. So we have a processor here, and inside a processor there is L1 cache and there is a L2 cache, and when and there is a processing of data, then firstly the processor looks in this cache memory for data. If the data is available, then processor takes that data for processing. If it is not available, that means a cache miss, and then the processor looks in the RAM for the data, and if data is available, then the CPU again processes that data, and the same data is transferred to the cache memory for future use. Again, next we have a primary memory. So primary memory is the main memory of our computer system, and it is the chip mounted on the motherboard of a computer. So primary memory is categorized into two main types. The first one is RAM, that is random access memory, and second one is ROM, that is read only memory. RAM is used for the temporary storage of input data, output and intermediate results. The input data entered into the computer system using input device is stored in RAM for processing. After processing, the output data is stored in RAM before being sent to the output device. Any intermediate results generated during the processing of program are also stored in RAM. But unlike RAM, data that once stored in ROM, that is read only memory, either cannot be changed or can only be changed using simple some special operations. So ROM is used to store the data that does not require a change. So firstly I will discuss in details about random access memory. So random access memory is a temporary storage used to store the data and information during the processing. It is a kind of volatile memory. So volatile memory is a memory that loses information when the computer is powered off, or when the power goes off, then this RAM loses information. So it provide random access to the stored byte, words and larger words. So same amount of time is required to access any kind of data from RAM irrespective of where it is located. So suppose we have a 8 GB of RAM, and if we want to access data from the RAM, then the data is spread all over 8 GB. So if we want to access some amount of data, then the same time is taken whether the data is taken from the first byte or data is taken from the last block. The same amount of time is taken in case of accessing the data in RAM. So read and writing of the data in RAM have the same speed, and the size of the RAMs are very limited due to high cost. It ranges from MBs to GB. So in today's in nowadays we have RAMs available from 512 MB to 32 GB of RAMs available in the market. So and also RAMs are implemented with the help of semiconductors. So RAMs are always implemented with the help of semiconductors, and there are two categories of RAM depending on the technologies used to construct a RAM. We have a dynamic RAM and we have a static RAM, and dynamic RAM is its shorter form is DRAM. So it is a most common type of memory chip available, and DRAM is, or dynamic RAM is mostly used in main memory since it is smaller and cheaper. So it uses transistors and capacitors. The transistors are arranged in a matrix of rows and columns. The capacitor holds the bit of information 0 and 1. The transistors and capacitors are paired to make a memory cell. So one memory cell in dynamic RAM is a pair of transistor and a capacitor. So transistor act as a switch that lets the control circuit on the memory chip read the capacitor or change its state. So dynamic RAM or DRAM must be refreshed continually to store the information. So as they are refreshed continually to store the information, so otherwise they will lose the information that what is holding in the DRAM. The access speed of these dynamic RAM ranges from 50 to 150 nanoseconds. Next we have a SRAM, and SRAM means a static RAM. So SRAM uses multiple transistors for each memory cell. It does not have a capacitor as in case of dynamic RAM we have a capacitor, but in case of static RAM we don't have any kind of capacitors in each cell. Static RAM memory has more parts, that so it takes more space on the chip than dynamic RAM. It doesn't need constant refreshing, as we need a constant refreshing in case of dynamic RAM, but in case of static RAM it doesn't need constant refreshing, and hence they are faster than DRAM or dynamic RAM. Also static RAMs are expensive as compared to DRAM, and they store information as long as power is supplied. When the power goes off, the information is lost. They are easier to use and they are very fast access speed, and the access speed ranges from 2 to 10 nanoseconds, but in case of dynamic RAM it is 50 to 150 nanoseconds. Next we have a ROM. ROM means read only memory, and it is a kind of non volatile primary memory. It means it does not lose its information or content when the power is switched off. So it has only read capabilities, so it is called as read only memory, because it has only read capabilities and has no writing capabilities. They are programmed by the manufacturer, and they store data that is needed for the starting or startup of a computer. So random read only memory also stores BIOS, that is basic input output system. So BIOS, what is BIOS? BIOS provides the processor with information required to boot the system. So when we switch on the computer, the first thing that is going to start is basic input output system, and this basic input output system, that is BIOS, that is stored in ROM. So firstly the BIOS is fetched from ROM, and this BIOS starts firstly when we start up the computer. So BIOS is a permanent kind of permanent in nature. So what are the different functions of BIOS? So the first function is power on self test, and it is called as power on self test, and it is also called as post. The shorter form of this is post. So it is a program that runs automatically when the system is booted. So it checks the all the hardware components to check whether they are working properly or not. So next function of BIOS is to display the system setting and finds the bootable devices. So main bootable devices in our computer system, we have hard disk. We boot the Windows or operating system is booted from the hard disk where it is stored, or the next bootable system we have a removable disk like pen drive, flash drives. Again we have some other devices like CD-ROM, DVD-ROM, all are bootable devices. So also the next function of BIOS is to initialize the registers. So register, we have smaller memory in the CPU, and the function of BIOS is to initialize these registers. The next function is to start the bootstrap loader. So bootstrap loader is a program whose purpose is to start the computer software for operations when the power is turned on. It loads the operating system into the RAM and run it or launches it. So main task of bootstrap loader is to load the operating system into the RAM and to run it. So it generally seeks the operating system on the hard disk. The bootstrap loader resides inside the ROM, and the BIOS initiate the bootstrap loader. Next there are different types of ROMs. So first we have a PROM, that is a programmable read only memory, and it can be a programmed with a special tool, but after it has been programmed the content cannot be changed. So PROM memories have thousands of diodes, and high voltage are applied to these diodes for burning or for writing of data. So the burning correspond to 0 or 1 depending upon the how the burning is performed. So next type of ROM is we have erasable PROM, means the first PROM is not erasable, means once the data is written in PROM it cannot be rewritable. But in case of EPROM, they are also programmed as of PROM, and but the content in EPROM can be erased by exposing it to ultraviolet light, and they can be reprogrammed. So EPROM chips have to be removed from the computer for rewriting purposes. Next type of ROM we have electrically erasable PROM. These kind of memories can be erased by electric charge and then reprogrammed. Double EPROM, that is electrically erasable PROM chips, do not have to be removed from the computer memory for rewriting. So next type of memory in the we have in the computer system is secondary memory. So we have seen RAM or primary memory. They are very expensive in nature and have a very limited storage capacity. Also they are primary memory is volatile in nature, means the contents is easily erased when the power switches off. So to overcome these kind of problems, we have secondary memory in the computer system. So as compared to RAM, secondary memory has very large storage capacity, and they are non-volatile in nature, means the data that is stored in secondary memory is permanently stored and cannot be erased. So it can be erased if we want, but if the power switches off or power goes, it retains in the secondary memory and cannot be erased by that kind of power gone or power failure. So the examples of secondary memory, we have magnetic tape, we have magnetic disk, we have optical disk. All are the different types of storage devices or secondary memories. So firstly I will discuss about magnetic tape. A magnetic tape is a plastic tape with magnetic coating, and it is a storage medium on a large open reel or in a small cartridge or a cassette, like you can consider it like a music cassettes that are available in past days for listening music. Magnetic tapes are cheaper storage device media, and they are durable and can be written, erased and rewritten. And magnetic tapes are sequential access devices. What is sequential access devices? Sequential access means that the computer must run through the data in sequence starting from the beginning in order to locate a particular piece of data. So if we want to access the block 6 in magnetic tape, so we have to just start from the beginning, then starting from first block, then we have to go to second block, then third, then sixth block. So it is a kind of sequential access. So in case of sequential access, data is accessed sequentially. We can't directly access data 6. So suppose in case of music cassettes, if we want to play fourth song. So firstly we have to just forward the music cassette starting from the first song until it reaches to the fourth song. Similarly, similar is the case of magnetic tape. So they are magnetic tapes are generally used to store backup data that is not frequently used, or to transfer data from one system to another system. So they are mainly used for as a backup devices for backing up of a data. So this one this is the picture that shows a magnetic tape, and in the next slide I will discuss about the internal working of a magnetic tape. So magnetic tapes are divided into tracks and vertically into frames. So a frame stores 1 byte of data, and a track in a frame store 1 bit. So data stored in successive frames existing with one data. So as we see in this kind of diagram, these are different kinds of frames: A, B, C, D, E, F. They are all frames. So magnetic tape is divided vertically into a frame, and these are tracks. Horizontally we have a track, and each frame stores a group of data. Like A frame stores a data, B frame also store a data, and the complete data that is stored in one frame is called as one block, and this block is called as record. So data is recorded in the form of blocks in case of magnetic tape, and each block is a group of records. So there is a inter record gap between two blocks. Like in this diagram we have one record, we have a record here stored here, then this one is second record, this one is third record, and the combination of these records is called as block. This is a block, this is one block, this is second block, and there is a gap between these two blocks, and this is called as IRG, that is inter record gap. So this one block is separated from other block in magnetic tape with the help of IRG, that is inter record gap. So magnetic tapes are mounted on a magnetic tape drives for access. So magnetic tape drive mechanism consists of a reel, take up reel, and read write head assembly. The magnetic tape moves on tape drive for the supply reel to take up reel with the help of magnetic coated side passing over read write head. So tapes are categorized based on their width. The main we have 1/4 inch tape and 1/2 inch or half inch tape we have available. The storage capacity of these tapes varies greatly. A 10 inch diameter reel of tape, which is 2400 feet long, can store up to 180 millions of characters. So the main features of magnetic tapes are: they are inexpensive storage devices, they can store large amount of data, they can easy to carry out, or they are portable in nature. They are not suitable for random access data because they are sequential access devices. The access time is very slower as compared to other secondary storage devices, and they need dust prevention as dust can be harmful for the tape, and mainly suitable for backup storage or for archiving. Next type of secondary storage we have magnetic disk, and a magnetic disk is a direct access storage device. So it is a direct access storage device, and it is a thin plastic or metallic circular plate coated with magnetic oxide, and they are encased in a protective cover. So data is stored on a magnetic disk as magnetized spots. The presence of magnetic spot represent the bit 1 and its absence represent the bit 0. So this one is the diagram for block diagram for magnetic disk, and this is the surface of the disk, and the surface is divided into tracks and sectors. So tracks are concentric circles, so these circles are called as tracks, and they are further divided by this pi slice across all the tracks, and this one is called as this portion inside which is divided further by a pi slice, it is called as a sector. So this one is first sector, this one is second, third, and so on. So sectors are the smallest unit that is written or read. So 8 and more sectors are available per track, and magnetic disks are inserted into a magnetic disk drive for the access. The drive consists of read-write head that is attached to the disk arm, which moves the head. So disk arm can move inward or outward on the disk. So to access the data, there are few terminologies. The first terminology we have seek time. So the seek time is the time taken to move the read-write head to the desired track. So in this diagram there is a suppose we have a read-write head here, and suppose we want to access data that is available in this kind of track sector. So seek time is the time that is taken by this read-write head to move from this position to this position. So this is called as seek time. Next we have a latency time. So the latency time is the time taken for the desired sector of the track to come under read-write head. Next we have a data transfer rate. The data transfer rate is the rate at which data is written to disk or read from the disk. So the amount of time by which the data is written into the disk or read from the disk is called as data transfer rate. Next we have a access time. So access time is the sum of seek time, latency time, and data transfer rate. So the storage capacity of magnetic disks is measured in GV or TB. So next the main features of magnetic disk are they are cheaper storage devices, they can store large amount of data, they are easily carry from one place to another, so they are portable in nature, and they are suitable for frequently read-write data. They are faster access devices as compared to magnetic tapes, and they are more reliable storage devices. Also like magnetic tapes, they are also prevented from the dust, as the read-write head flies over the disk and any dust particle in between can corrupt the disk. Next we have a floppy disk, and they are used in the past days, and floppy disk is a flat rounded single disk of plastic and enclosed in square plastic jacket, like, and this is the floppy disk. And floppy disk drives are used for inserting a floppy into it. So floppy disks are either single sided or double sided. They are portable in nature, that is, they can be taken from one place to another. They are very small and very cheaper, and they are slower than hard disk, that is, to access data from floppy disk. They have very slower access, and the different sizes of floppy disk, they come with two basic sizes. One is 3.5 inch and other is 5 and 1/4 inch. And the total maximum amount of data that is stored in 3.5 inches 1.44 MB, that is 400 KB. And total amount of data stored in 5 and 1/4 inch size is 1.2 MB, that is, they can store very small amount of data, and they were used in past, but nowadays we have pen drives, we have hard disks that can store very large amount of data. So in these days floppy disks are not available. Next we have hard disk. So hard disks consist of tracks and sectors, and they are mounted on a central spindle, as you can see in this diagram, that there is a spindle like stack. It can be read by a read write head. This one is a read write head here, this one, that the data is stored on the platers covered into the magnetic coating. So data is stored either on upper side or either on the lower side of this platter. So hard disk is a fixed disk, but nowadays we have portable disks are also available in the market, and they store much more data than floppy disks. And the speed by the rotating speed of each disk is around 10,000 rpm, that is rotations per minute. Each disk rotate 10,000 times, and faster is the rotating speed, faster is the processing and access speed of that disk. And the access time is around 9 to 14 milliseconds. The capacity of available nowadays, we have 1 TB of hard disk, we have 2 TB of hard disk, and many more. Also we have new kind of disks available in the market nowadays, that is SSD, solid state drive. They are very fast as compared to hard disks, but they are very expensive and as compared to traditional hard disks. And the access times of SSD is very much slower, faster as compared to the traditional hard disks. Next we have optical disk. So optical disk is a flat and circular disk which is coated with reflective plastic material that can be altered with laser light. So optical disk does not use magnetism for reading and writing purpose. The bits 1 and 0 are stored as spots that are relatively bright and light. So they consist of single spiral track. So optical disc consists of single spiral track that starts from the edge of the center of the disc, edge to the center of the disc. Due to this spiral shape, it can access large amount of data sequentially. For example, music and video. The random access of optical disc is slower than magnetic disc due to spiral shape. The uh, tracks are further, like in this diagram we have a optical disc, and the tracks are further divided here into a sectors which are of a same length. So each sector is of same size in case of optical disc. That is the main difference between hard disk. This one is a hard disk where each sector is of different size, and in case of optical disc each sector is divided of equal size. So because of same length, the sectors near the center of disk wrap around the disk longer than the sector on the edges of the disk. The reading of disk requires the spinning of disk faster when reading near the center and slower when reading near the edge of the disk. So the capacity of these optical disk, they can store up to 6 GB of data, and the access time is 100 to 200 milliseconds. They are slower than hard disk. The main examples of optical disks are CD-ROM, DVD-ROM. They are some common examples of or categories of optical disk. Thanks for watching this video lecture.